as you know, this particular gene regulation system, it works basically at two levels, and I identify them as two layers of regulation. First is the transcriptional level control, and the second is the post transcriptional level control. So a lot of work has been done upon understanding the regulatory control at transcriptional level, where you must be knowing about transcription factor binding site analysis, transcription factor identification themselves. Then thereafter came epigenomics and epigenetic studies. So they are studying acetylation, methylation, and all these things. Then things further moved on, and now what is happening on the chromatin modeling and openness of the chromatin structure. And further to this, now this whole model of enhancosome has come, where long non-coding RNAs have been implicated as major regulator of transcriptional process. So lots of things have been happening here. And for post-transcriptional control system, as you can see here, a major thing has been attributed to small RNAs. So I I personally prefer to use term microRNA for all of them, all this classification. For a long time, even I consider myself as a student, not as a teacher or something like that. And I will be a lifelong student for this subject. So I was just interviewed and confused also, that why people are giving so many names to a single thing. And their logic was, every time I found that they themselves were confused, and they were giving the logic that since they are being found from different sources, so they are defined that way. But in the 2015, we published a paper in NAR, and there we just put it like regulatory small, either call it as a regulatory small RNA or as microRNA. So microRNAs have been a big major post-transcriptional regulator, and these regulators are, when they were found in 2005, specifically into 2000, when there were only 700 microRNAs reported in human system. One of the pioneer researcher in my microRNA system, Eric Lai, he called that approximately those 700 microRNAs were controlling one third of the genes in human system. Now, at present, there are more than 2,500 microRNAs in human alone. And if you go through my NAR paper of 2015, in that paper, we have reported that more than 11,000 actually microRNAs are working in human system. So you can just imagine the dimension, the degree to which these small RNAs are regulating the system. They are present almost everywhere, every process are being controlled, even the form differentiation process, maintenance process, all these things are very much controlled by microRNAs. And one very marked feature of microRNAs are that they are highly spatiotemporal, means that for a certain kind of job, even for nanoseconds, they come, they do their job, and they just vanish. They are just like that, they are big molder of the system. So this post-transcriptional regulator microRNA is well identified, but there is one more post-transcriptional regulator, uh, that is RNA binding proteins. So you have introduced me here. I'll let you tell you that my PhD actually happened in non-coding elements. I did my PhD in allo elements, and I was a person fascinated with those things which were not coding. So my love for protein was not very much, and I was just interviewed in non-coding elements. But here, while working on microRNAs, my love for RNA binding proteins, it was what you say that fired on, and I sense that how much important these regulators are. By that time, nobody, even I think that at present also very minuscule work has been done in this country on RNA binding proteins, and nobody has even touched to look into this microRNA and RBP association. So you can see that from transcriptional process, start of transcription itself, and to any kind of RNA, go to any RNA, they can't survive without an RNA binding protein. Lots of RNA binding proteins are there. Even the nascently transcribed RNA, it undergoes splicing process through RNA binding protein. The capping happens through RNA binding protein. Polyadenylation happens through RNA binding protein. Control of translation happens through RNA binding protein. And even microRNA formation is done by RNA binding protein. And here is a theory that formation of microRNA. This is a two-step process. In the first step process, uh, just like pre-mRNA, a pre-microRNA is transcribed. That pre-microRNA is cleaved by some enzymes. So traditionally, DROSA and DICER enzyme, two enzymes were made responsible for this entire process. DROSA that cleaved precursor to primary form, and primary, from primary to precursor form, and from precursor to mature form, the cleaving is done by DICER enzyme. So this is the generally accepted theory which we have been hearing for long time, and I started my career as a faculty while working on microRNA themselves. So I was also following the same thing for a long time. But as you can see that here I am showing lots of things binding to these microRNAs. So they are not certainly DOSA, DICER, just two things. Many RNA binding proteins are binding here. So what happened? So in 2011, actually, we were working on understanding how microRNAs are actually being formed. We had just completed work on finding microRNA genes and their targets. Software we had developed, TARF, PTARF system for targeting, and this software Mirbac for this microRNA identification. So we had not published one of them, perhaps, but we were very much into that. And there I realized that we should see that how these microRNAs are being formed, because there are so many microRNAs and none of them are, or not all of them are getting transcribed and expressed every time. They are very much specific. They are coming at particular moment. They do their job and they just vanish. They go away. So it is very much important, if you don't understand that how these are being formed and just predicting that this region of DNA will form microRNA and they will target this and that, it is not going to be very much useful information. You need to capture the dynamic nature of the microRNAs. So in order to do that, transcriptional regulation of microRNAs should be studied. And with that corner, we had started looking into microRNAs, how they are getting transcribed. So while doing that analysis, we started getting what information that these microRNAs could be clustered and to gather together into groups, and these groups were sharing some common binding sites. And this work I reported in 2011, and at that time there was no clue, as you can see in this bar, and almost no reporting was there on RNA binding protein. Nothing we were having. Some papers were there, some software were there, and they were just reporting 5 base pair binding site, 4 base pair binding site. So uh, finding such kind of a small binding sites is very much a matter of chance. So they can happen randomly also. So even that authenticity was not there. So somehow we developed our own algorithm there to get some idea of those small specific binding sites. And enrichment was there. Some of the binding sites were for this transcription factor, and some were hinting for this RNA binding proteins. And you will be astonished to know that all of them were centered like this. They were just clubbing the microRNA, and they were forming clusters, different group, different clusters where same function microRNAs were having similar kind of binding sites also for various proteins. But due to lack of data, we could not extend it further. And thankfully, the technological revolution happened. People started doing sequencing. Agent sequencing was very much common after 2010. And you can see here that how this all data has swelled for ClipSec analysis. What happens in ClipSec is like it is very much common to ChIP-seq, where the bound. Uh, I just come to this slide. So so where the protein is bound to the RNA, and this particular protein is immunoprecipitated and the bound region is sequenced. Through that, you get the idea of the region binding to the protein and interacting with the protein. And another thing is interactome capture. Interactome capture, here, you just pull the RNAs from the polyadenylation site or another techniques, and you just pull RNA and wash them and then digest them, and thereafter you get only those proteins, those RNAs intact which are bound to proteins, and thereafter you identify the protein through MALDI kind of or mass spectrometry kind of methods, and you identify them as an RNA binding protein. So
So, Ravi, sorry to intervene. I was just wondering, I had a question. So, sorry to intervene. So, I'm just wondering, like in your scheme before, you have shown all the different types of clip. And one of the major type which has really contributed a lot, being a part of the ENCODE project, is eClip. So, I mean, is there is any rational like you skip that eClip part? Because in my understanding of
eClip,
iClip
yeah,
and ParClip and all other clip methods, eClip is very sensitive in
yeah,
terms of the number of outliers and all that. So, I mean, yeah, this graph on the right side.
I have not included this part, but combined all together they are called ClipSec. So you can see this data includes eClip also. So of late eClip has been very much used, and in this present work we have used extensively eClip. In fact, in code they have provided eClip data majorly. So we have considered all these things here just to show these three techniques. I am showing this plot separately, and the combined having all these techniques. In fact, there are 10, 12 techniques like that. So all are covered in this particular blue line. Okay, so eClip is very much there.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
eClip is certainly more sensitive one.
Yeah, thank you.
So where I was. So this was the idea. In this slide, I have shown you that two ways the information on the binding proteins was available. First was through attacking this bound region for in ClipSec. You interpret the uh, bound protein, and you sequence the small RNA attached to that protein, and that is called ClipSec technology. And here it is interactome capture, where you just identify the bound protein. Both of them are disjoint experiments done differently. So through these experiments after 2010, you can see in this plot, lots of data were started getting generated, and of late from nothing to lots of data. You are almost here in this is a little bit older slide. So the volume of data generated by ClipSec is now very much high. But you see these are very much uh, experimental condition specific also. So for given experimental condition, you need to have that experiment done, and every time you need to be doing all these experiment repeatedly for condition specific manner. So it is a little bit costly affair also. So one motivation I shared that in 2000 work we got a strong hint that these microRNAs are having lots of RNA binding proteins sites, and they must be investigated if these RNAs are getting uh, microRNAs are being formed by RNA binding proteins or not. But we were limited by data, which later started flowing in. Second motivation was the basic common idea that people were saying that Drosha and Dicer are involved in microRNA formation, and there are more than 2,000 microRNAs, but you don't find all of them getting expressed equivalently, and many of them are not even expressed most of the time, and they are highly specific in their time and space of expression. And on the same time, if you look into the various tissue level expression of these two Drosha and Dicer enzymes, then you will find that most of them are getting expressed in all these tissues. Both of them are getting expressed in all these tissues, and they are almost omnipotent, omnipresent. So they are almost getting expressed everywhere. But if they are getting expressed everywhere, then why microRNAs are not getting formed? Because they are actually involved there. So these two are a strong indicator for us to move forward. And just like a passionate kid, we started looking into this. For years we started gathering data. We started looking. So this work, what you are seeing, it started in 2011, and in 2021, this year, we have finally concluded it. So in the meantime, some other labs were also reporting things before us. One very interesting job was done by Eric Lai group, and what they found that this is one of the oldest microRNA, LET7. It is very much involved in lots of processes. just so lots of processes and just a minute. They were they were found to be not getting expressed. The mature microRNA of late 7 was not forming just because uh, something was involved there, that they were not knowing which factor, so say they assumed that some transcription factor was working there and binding of that transcription factor was getting abrupted or something halted, so that's why let7 was not getting expressed. But when they looked further into the detail, they found that let7 was getting transcribed, but still the mature microRNA was not forming, and they then found that lin28, that RNA binding protein, that was binding to this particular uh, precursor and halting the process of microRNA formation. So that was the first evidence that how these RNA binding proteins were, other than adrosine and dicer, were getting involved into formation of microRNAs. Then mitrons, you must be some those who are working on microRNA, they are knowing that directly from a splicing product, mitrons microRNAs are formed. And then there is a work in 2012 where they found that phosphate protein, they were essentially required for binding the precursor, and it worked like a calibrator which gave binding spot to DGCR8 and then DROSHA, and thereafter nicking happened and mature microRNA formation was controlled. So these developments were also there. And then you have seen this slide. So we started our work and we collected 25 terabytes of data, 25 terabytes of data, which included all 15.6 terabytes of RNA-seq and microRNA-seq data, and 10.8 terabytes of CLIP-seq data. So, and total 47 experimental conditions were considered, okay, and 1230 CLIP-seq samples were available for 155 RNA binding proteins. So we analyzed these CLIP-seq data, and you see one thing is very much important here, that in order to know that how these bindings of RNA binding proteins are affecting microRNA formation, we must be having three things altogether. This is RNA-seq, small RNA-seq, which gives idea of microRNA formation, mature microRNA formation, and CLIP-seq, which gives information about RNA binding protein binding across the RNA. So that was the essential thing, and that common conditions were out of 47, 32 conditions were found satisfying this criteria, and we move with this final data set. So for considering this RNA binding protein sites, three things were considered. Uh, we call it three approach. First approach was at least 5 reads should map to the microRNA region. So microRNA region, as I'm showing here, so here is a mature microRNA, then some region into the precursor RNA region, and then up to 1 kb region I can consider, or 2 kb region I can consider as you say this primary microRNA. So binding across all these regions were evaluated using these three approaches. So first was at least 5 reads should bind, and at least the support should be in two different conditions for the same kind of binding. And then it should be filtered through Piranha peak calling. And third approach is the Pikachu peak calling. Both of methods were just overlapping for 25% conditions. So what we made essential, that first condition is most essential one, followed by any of these two. So these two conditions must be met. So we analyzed and we found lots of proteins bound across all these microRNA regions. And as you can see, that much for this primary region you found, and here the plot is for the precursor to mature condition. So lots of genes were found, and one thing we also noticed, that this over dominance of some RNA binding protein was also due to their over reporting. Lots of experiments were done on Argonaut 2. So obviously you are going to see more data for Argonaut 2. So what we did, we normalized them for the number of experiments also. After normalization for number of experiments, their rank changed, and we found entirely different kind of plot thereafter. So that was much more valid thing. And also one thing we noticed, that I'm just showing for it for some proteins only. It was not possible to involve all proteins here. So many of them were having very much binding preference towards microRNA region. Some of them were showing too much enrichment around the mature microRNA region, while some were just insensitive towards binding specificity, like very much famous this dosha enzyme. It was present almost everywhere. So you can see here that this binding preference was there. This is the protocol which we followed for this sequencing data processing and analysis. Now coming to this the slide, it is very important slide, and you need to understand basically that what steps are getting involved. So from expression and binding data for RNA-seq data, for this microRNA sequencing data, and your CLIP-seq data, we started things. And in the previous slide here, I have shown that how the basic information we got, that for which RNA binding proteins and microRNAs we should start working. So we had starting point identified from CLIP-seq data. From that CLIP-seq data, we moved, and what we did, we infused the expression data into those. But then we followed structural learning. These are the very heavy statistical analysis part, which was done by my student who is expert in stats. So uh, these things were like that. That structural learning, what does that once you give them the expression data, they evaluate the directionality, and accordingly they develop directed acyclic graphs. So directed acyclic graphs is very important. We were trying to ascertain that what is the causal route, causal path, how these microRNAs are found, which RNA binding proteins found associated in clips of data are actually not noise and functionally active regions. So all these things were done through these steps. So structural learning gave us the directed acyclic graph, and then we moved to this block coordinate descent algorithm, where we found out the most significant directed acyclic graph regions. And from that, we further moved and we do the sparse regularized SEM. So what we did in this SEM, that it is one of the most important step in detecting causality. So this association and the paths involved were how, which one of was most significant, how much significant, what kind of relationship was there, it was positive or negative relationship, all these things were found out there. And finally the maximum MCP algorithm penalty, it finally finds out the most important parameter sets, okay, which were involved in building all these models. And finally the macro RNA biogenesis model was formed. So when we got these models, then we were just curious that how good models we made. We had a statistical score which were very much encouraging, supporting. So a part of that, then we started testing it. So in order to test, what we did, that we collected 8 different tissues from GTEx, and we analyzed them for the found associations of microRNA and RNA binding protein, which we called functional associations. And as you can see here, almost more than 90% of association were having high expression correlation, and they were holding across most of these uh, tissue types. And for more than four, or more than four, you can say, from four more than four, 49% of these associations were uh, present, and total 96.9% combinations were validated. 89% of, as I have written, 89% of DNA discovered mRNA RVP combination also displayed a strong expression correlationship. And same thing we did with randomized data. And in randomized data, you can see that not much of them were found. So it was certain that all the found associations were not random, but highly specific one, and these were really genuine functional things. Now I'm just showing this correlogram here, and you can see that with different microRNA, different RNA binding proteins are exhibiting different kind of expression correlation obtained through this BNA. These were further clustered for all these 8 tissues. What we did, that we clustered based on their expression pattern across these samples for these 8 tissues, and we found almost more than 100 or something like that clusters. And more than 75% of these clusters were showing uh, good, strong relationship. So functional, what I mean by that, that if I am having this cluster and the microRNAs which were falling into this cluster, so the common microRNAs of this cluster were displaying same kind of RNA binding protein, almost 80% of them, minimum 80% of them were having same kind of RNA binding proteins. When we looked into the functional associations and pathways associated with these microRNAs and RNA binding protein, they were also common, their functionality were common. So in the right side of this image, you can see that I am showing like 69 pathways, 69 microRNAs were found in this cluster, suppose, and 48 of them were found for this particular, sorry, I'm just messing up. 69 different pathways are found here for this microRNAs. 48 of them overlapped with the same for RNA binding protein. Total 59 different pathways were found by this RNA binding protein, and the commonality between them were 48. So most of them were showing very high degree of commonality if you go through all these things. So their functional biological process or molecular function or pathways level, all of them were showing very high degree of commonality. So there is a Raglone model, and it is said that if something are regulated together, they merge towards some common pathway, and that was very much holding up in this case, this analysis. It was very much clear that RNA binding proteins which were found associated with microRNAs were contributing towards the common pathway or common molecular function, and functionality was very much attached. This is the general distribution pattern of the kind of RNA binding proteins which were found. And very interestingly, one protein about which nobody had spoken so far, and its identification is very poor at present, it is AR2 protein. So this protein we found very much associated with microRNA formation, and in fact more active than DOSHA dicer enzymes, and it was present across most of the many of the models of these microRNAs. So what we did, that we carried out the experiment. We requested one of our wet lab scientists here to conduct experiment where Dyson knockdown was done. And as you can see here, that when Dyson knockdown was done, still these microRNAs were getting formed. These microRNAs we selected because they were found in oral cancer associated with this protein AR2. So despite of knocking out of dicer enzyme, because as the theory, traditional theory says that dicer is the enzyme behind microRNA formation. So if that protein is getting knocked out, then at least these microRNA should not have formed, but they form. But when we knocked out AR2, you can see a drastic reduction in the expression of these microRNAs happens. So our model was validated also experimentally. And next, we on the sidelines we also found that different kinds of numbers of associations we could study. I can't discuss all of them, but they can be broadly classified into three types: a cooperative model with mutual association between the RNA binding proteins, that one RNA binding protein is required by another RNA binding protein to carry out the processing and formation of microRNA. Second is cooperating model without mutual association, like that both of them don't come in the same time span, but at different time span, and one does the first job, then another one follows it and completes that. That is a relay race. And third is competitive model binding. So if one comes, then other one halts it, blocks it. So it is like of inverse relationship, that if any of them comes together, or suppose if it is working here, then it will work alone, and if this one moved and comes, then this microRNA 447b will not be formed. So this way we discovered lots of association between RNA binding proteins themselves, and obviously the networks are behind them. We also found that RNA binding proteins which were found as very microRNAs were capable to mimic the microRNAs if we tried them as the biomarkers. So like in cancer condition, I'm showing here the lung cancer case perhaps. So in this condition, you can see that the kind of separation the microRNAs achieved for patient versus cancer samples was almost replicated by RNA binding protein found associated with those microRNAs. So we gave almost repetitively all these proofs that these associations are functional. So finally coming to the implementation of this entire finding into software. So what happened that now kid was rekindled inside us. We were very much excited to see all these things. And then we thought that if these models, these Bayesian network models are so much capable of giving uh, the basic idea that how these microRNAs are being formed and they are holding up very much uh, strongly against all the tests, then these network, the found networks, they can be molded into a machine learning approach, and the same thing can be used to do something which has not been done so far. Nobody had attempted to identify microRNA profiles without doing any experiment, and we were almost near to that. So if you use those networks and do machine learning like of things on these things networks, then it was possible to identify microRNA profiles without the experiments. So as you can see here, the Bayesian models were built. These are the data sources. So I'm just repeating here that a small RNA, they gave idea about mature micro RNA expression level, and RNA-seq data, it revealed precursor expression as well as RNA binding protein expression. ECLIPSE data, it gave us actual interactor information. Using all these things, we started our work, and behind that PPI network of all the associated RNA binding protein was also involved. And then we built this causal nets. As you can see, that they started as static network, then insignificant connections or non-informative connections were removed. Finally, most significant connections were got, and directionality was achieved. And from the directionality relationship level, like positive or negative association were finally carved out. And then the same network was fed into this vector. Okay, so it worked like the feature actually. So these become feature set for any given microRNA. Then you fuse this feature set with RNA-seq data, that whatever their respective expression was there, you get from RNA-seq data. This goes to the XGBoost regression learning system, and training is done. The target is the microRNA expression profile. So you can see here that the actual microRNA expression profile is there, and our predicted one is there. And finally, we calculate the accuracy, that how good accuracy was there. So if you go to our software website, which we have made available on GitHub and our lab webpage also, you just need to put expression data with ensemble ID, and this we have developed for 12,004 microRNAs. Okay, so for many of microRNAs, enough sample was not available, so that's why we could not rely on their machine learning models also. So you need data. Without data, you can't work. So this is for human system. So ensemble gene ID followed by their expression value. Whatever form you give the expression value, it will be automatically converted into JSCO system and fed into the various network components for the associated microRNAs. And then that goes to XGBoost committee. Okay, that does the prediction. XGBoost does the prediction, and finally you get the output here. And output is like bubble chart, a very interactive one. You just click on any of these and it will redirect you. So more just like that, this microRNA, particular microRNA getting expressed, the high association bubble is bigger, and on the upper side, the lower side microRNAs are low least expressed one, so they are smaller in size also, and at lower side. You select any of them, you can perform gene enrichment analysis, you can go to the target analysis part also, and their respective uh, databases also. And from there you can also perform testing of your own data, how much confident you are on the result. So you can provide your own actual expression data here, and then rerun it, and you will find the plot of actual versus predicted one mapped on each other, and with accuracy value reported here also. From there you can get the option of pathway mapping also, and you can look into your targets for pathways also. So everything is there. I'm just showing cases of six. So how the predicted one is given here, and it has been superimposed with the actual one. So most of them were achieving 91% average overall 91 average accuracy was obtained, and the highest accuracy we observed was 94%, and lowest accuracy was 87%. And we actually tested across a large number of conditions and revalidated upon 431 different samples covering more than 10 conditions and tissue types, and for 1200 microRNAs, as I have told you, at 1204 microRNAs, we have built this data. We also did one interesting test, and what we did that here also we looked at how important this causal net information was. So what we did that we replaced the causal net with their predecessor net from which that causal net was derived. That was PPI net. So we replaced the corresponding causal BNA net with PPI net, and that is obviously not dynamic one, a static one. So accuracy fell down very sharply. And if we swapped across these causal nets, that suppose the causal net of another microRNA was used for another microRNA, then also the performance dropped down drastically. So you can see here performance difference between these two. These two are from causal net. This is for test set. This is for train set. But it fell down very sharply when you come to PPI, inclusive test set and training set, and for swapped one, it went down further. So you can see here that accuracy was very much robust and dependent upon the identified BNA, and total of 1400 unique genes were found involved in our biogenesis model. So up to this time, we can say that around 1400 different genes are involved in this particular microRNA expression model system. And the distribution plot you can see here. So in general, around 150 to 200 genes were found involved for these microRNAs, but in total, the total 1400 genes are involved in these networks. So application part, we had completed this work last year itself. So review process consumed a lots of time, and at that time, due to COVID, everything was getting disturbed. So first thing, we were really interested in knowing that what is happening with the micronome of COVID, because nothing was known. I'm not sure that even right now it is known or not. But at that time, only two kinds of studies were done. One was from lungs alveolar fluid sample. Another one was from the lung epithelial tissue sample. So one was Chinese group data and another one was American group data. So we gathered them when we studied them for the microRNAs, and that was an apt case for application of our microRNA profiling system, because microRNA information was not available for COVID patients. So we found out the microRNAs formed in COVID patients. We predicted, and we found that across these two samples, 326 microRNAs were found common and commonly expressed all across these two, which is a good amount of number. So we focused on this upregulated microRNAs, and we looked into their targets, and lots of microRNAs were found which were controlling all these things, which in later publication also which has been validated. So finally we focused upon this particular model part, that how blood sugar or glucose metabolism is being affected, and we found that interferon 3 points are very much important in COVID and very much regulated by microRNA, and epicenter is interferon gamma receptor and interferon gamma system. So interferon gamma is required for this IRAP. IRAP is required for GLUT4 mediated glucose uptake. If IRAP goes down, GLUT4 does not work, and GLUT4 does not work, then sugar buildups, and this is controlled by lots of microRNAs. 8 microRNAs are involved there. Then major histocompatibility complex, it is controlled by 12 microRNAs. Okay, and this part is very important to part, because this all thing is under control process of utilization deutilization cycle, which is controlled by Tancarase. And Tancarase was getting hit by 3 microRNAs. And behind all this, there you can see here that ubiquitin proteasome pathway related 114 downloaded genes were found, which were targeted by 119 90 microRNAs. Okay, and same way here you can see JAK-STAT pathway. It was getting affected, and then insulin receptor pathway and insulin growth factor pathways all were getting affected by these micro. We have identified all these microRNAs and where they are actually working. So later on, many work came. We have not included in the paper because it is a separate work itself, and we have separated the wet biology paper as a different papers. But on bioarchive, we have posted all these things there. You can find them in good details. So, final conclusion is that the microRNA formation is far beyond Gaussian and dicer dependent process. Conditional networks of RNA binding proteins decide the life of microRNAs. Protein AR2 emerges as the most associated RBP in microRNA biogenesis. Commonly expressing microRNAs have common RNA binding proteins, common control system, common biological roles. Just RBP network expression data is enough to predict microRNA profile in any given condition. In the absence of ClipSec, some tools may be developed to predict RBP RNA interaction. So seventh point is very important because we have suffered a lot. So if you get some RNA binding protein by interaction identification software, then you will not relying on ClipSec data anymore. So it will be a big step, and actually we have achieved this one also. I will be showing that software also. Uh, and but what about identifying RBP themselves? So big question is there. I tell you that when I had started this work, then at that time very less amount of RBP was identified in 2011. Very minuscule information about RBP was there. Now information for a large number of RBP is there, 1500 they say, and this year they report that around 5000 RNA binding proteins are present. Interestingly, many of the enzymes which were found in traditional pathways like well-studied pathways like glycolysis, Krebs cycle, all these things are now getting reported as RNA binding proteins. So you can just imagine that what kind of thing are going on. The things which were identified as transient factor, now they are being identified as RNA binding proteins. So lots of changes are happening. A number of RNA binding protein is swelling up, and you have just got data for 150 RNA binding protein right now through ClipSec. So it is the thing. And if you look into plant science, they have done almost nothing with RNA binding protein. Nothing. No data you find with RNA binding proteins in plant sciences. And in animal system, you have just 150. So the developed model is for a human system. It will work for human system. Okay. And for 1200 microRNA, it will work for any of these microRNA. You put RNA set data, you will get microRNA expression data of very high prediction accuracy. Just 3-4 days back, we have finally got our this work accepted in PLOS One. So you can get the software at our website, our lab website, as well as on GitHub, and it is available in the web server form as well as uh, this standalone source code. And these are our boys who worked behind this work. So Sagar did this benchmarking analysis. Prakash developed the web server part. Upendra is the main guy. His PhD thesis is this work. He is hardcore statistician. And then Nitesh, he worked with expression data analysis and source code implementation. Ashwani assisted in AR2 study and structure analysis and other computational studies. But this work was covered and done again under this DBT, Grant for Big Data Analysis. Thanks. And any question you can ask. And in the meantime, I just show you few things. Yeah, that if you go to our lab web page, so here this Abhi Mirbiome is. I have already opened it. Actually. So here you can just put your example here and run it. Software will run. So it is running. I'm showing you. It takes some time.
Rani, we will take the question. We have one question to chat box. What was the cause for COVID-19? What were the values?